Are you ready? Did you light the candle? Okay, let's start the ritual. Welcome to Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I'm your host, Rachel. This is a space where truth gets its voice back because shame loses its power when we speak to it. Here, we don't skip the hard parts. We sit with them and we learn to hold ourselves inside them. This podcast is ritual in audio form, a way for us to bring intention and intuition back into our everyday. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. Ashleigh, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. I actually don't know if you remember or know this, but we have connected before when we were both living in North Carolina. I I meant to tell you this before we got on air, and it just came to me. I was at an event. I was actually to be at a market, like a vendor that you did a speech at. And so when you reach,
Oh,
yeah. So then when we connected over Instagram, I meant to ask you if you remembered that. But yeah, so I've known about you for quite some time.
oh my goodness. I feel like yes and no. I remember connecting with you in social life with Santi and being like, she has a vibe that I remember, but I didn't realize it was even in person. I just assumed it was online.
Yeah, well, I don't think you would have like I mean, we didn't talk at that event.
Okay.
I saw you speak and I was a vendor, so I'm not
Oh,
surprised that you wouldn't remember me from there, but yeah, so we have connected in person. And hopefully we will again someday soon. But I'm so happy to have you here on the podcast. And to get started, I want to start with the first question I ask all my guests, which is, what is one thing you wish people knew about you that you don't think many do?
this is funny. And it's kind of like awkward. I am often the like deep communicator friend. Like, let's have really deep talks and very everything that I do in my career first started with, oh, like this is what people come to me in my personal life for. I I love like having fun. I don't want to talk all the time.
Mm.
I want to go and have like just a great old time where we talk about absolutely nothing. I'm not necessarily a person that's like, I don't want to do small talk. I don't mind small talk. It gets us into the deeper levels. And I just want to have more fun in my adulthood without having to be like, let's hash out every trauma or trauma dump together. I don't want to do that all the time. Yeah.
No, I relate to that a lot. First of all, I also am a deep talker. I'm not I'm not usually one for small talk. Um, and I also, an intention in my life right now is to have more fun and to not take everything so seriously and to not have to go so deep into the darkness all the time, even though that's something I love and something that comes so naturally to me. But I've noticed for myself that having more fun is challenging for me. Like being
Okay. Yeah.
lighter and just playful can be really hard for me. So I'm curious if that is something that you've observed within yourself or within others and why you think that might be. I mean, I know for myself, but I'm curious what is that for you?
I think we could get into the astrology of it all, but just taking it away from astrology just to some of the main points of me. I know I come off very nurturing, like
Mm.
the way that strangers come up to me and just start talking about problems and things. I know that that's like the aura I'm putting off. Whereas when I'm my most comfortable, joyous self and just like hanging loose, I'm really funny, I'm really fun, etc. So I think it's more about helping others to see beyond just like that first level of me that yes, I'm warm and nurturing. But no, I feel really fun. It just is, I feel like something that maybe I only share with folks that I'm really, really comfortable with, really safe. I don't know. It's interesting. Like I'm very laughy, so people assume that I have humor,
Yeah.
but otherwise it just comes off nurturing.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I love that. And I think it does speak to showing other people all different sides of ourselves and not just what they expect to see. You know, just because people expect you to always be nurturing in this certain type of way, we can allow ourselves to reveal other parts of ourselves to people that might take them by surprise.
Agreed, fully. Oh, I'm excited for your playful era. What does that feel like for you?
What does that feel like for me? I think that honestly, it's just not taking life so seriously and not getting so in my head all the time. Um, Speaking about astrology, I'm a Virgo and I can just be a little bit perfectionistic, a little bit hard on myself. And then I have a Scorpio rising, so I like to get deep. And, I also find that people come to me with a lot of the emotional sides of life, which I love getting into. But I think I want to allow myself to do things just because they're fun, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I do. What's your moon?
Also Virgo.
Also, Virgo. Oh my goodness, you're having a big season. It's like big for you.
Yes, lots is happening. Okay, so, well, I guess one question I'm really into asking people right now in all different areas of my life is what season of life do you feel like you are leaving behind, and what season of life do you feel like you are entering? And I know that it can be hard to generalize and really place these things in boxes, so feel free to take this question wherever you want to go with it. But I really have noticed that so many of us are entering a new chapter and in such a big way that has never happened before, like not even just a new chapter, we're starting a new book in the series. And I'm curious
Mm.
if you feel that for you and how you kind of conceptualize that in your mind.
Ooh, okay. I don't usually share my age, but I'm on the cusp of my Saturn return. I have about 2 months left. You too?
Well,
Okay.
I'm about to start my Saturn return.
You're, whoa. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to hear how it goes for you. Does that mean you have Aries in Saturn? Is
Yes.
that
Yes.
right? Okay. It's Pisces for me. And I feel like there is this sense of, I don't want to say delusion, but some kind of illusionment, some kind of veil has kind of dropped off.
Mm.
Um, I think I just really saw, and I don't have a great one word for it, but I really saw such a dark side of maybe business and scaling that I haven't seen before. Uh,
Mm.
and I've had a couple of businesses now. I've been in the career of entrepreneurship for a long while. Just so surprising how much I saw so quickly in the last couple of years. My word of the year is abide. And I feel like I'm moving into the energy of like even deeper attunement. That if I'm discerning that something feels a little dark, a little off, I don't necessarily have to go investigate as hard as I usually do to be like, no, I think it's probably okay that I don't go down that pathway, while also attuning to, as a human having like trauma responses, fight, flight, or freeze, all that stuff. To be like, well, what is this really? So just deeper attunement and deeper discernment.
Hmm. Discernment is such a big word for me. And I
Yeah,
think for me, it also comes back to simplicity. And that connects to what you were saying, Rod. I don't need to always understand the why or go down
yeah,
that road. I can just be like, no, this is a no.
yeah.
And leave it?
As water signs, we're like, okay, let's get to the deep dark of this.
Yeah. Which is a beautiful thing to not be afraid to go there. But
Yeah,
also, sometimes we just don't need to go there. And I think part of it is not needing to understand everything. Not sometimes we don't we just need to trust our knowing that it's a no, and not needing to
yeah,
give a reason for it.
I agree completely. Yeah. And I think it plays into what we're talking about with fun and levity. We can be a little bit lighter when we don't go to the depths and like lose the light because we're so far from the surface.
Yeah. And you said your word for the year is abide. And I'm curious what that means to you and how you chose that.
It chose me. It knocked me off like continuously. I was like, um, I was a Christian growing up. I've long disillusioned from just religion in general, but have a very close relationship with God, spirit, etc. And I was just like, abide really feels religious to me. That was something I really came up with of abiding to the law and the spirit of such. I was like, this just doesn't feel quite right. And deeper I went just into, at this point, I don't remember all of the roots, but just the root of the word. And it really connected at the time of, okay, I do desire to abide by this big thing, which was essentially shutting down my business consultancy to move into life coaching and the work that I do now, which was connected to business consultancy. But I really wanted to just go deep and do just this work without the talk of funnels and marketing and all these things that end up being symptoms of a life that's not designed towards harmony or well designed in general.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow. And how did you know to make the switch from one business to the next? Because I think that can be a really hard decision for people to make. And again, this kind of comes back to the discernment piece. Like, how does your intuition speak to you in that way?
Oh, intuition definitely speaks in a couple of ways. It's very much a whisper,
Mm,
but it does seem to populate a lot through media. So, books, movies, I'll just see a reflection of a character and be like, oh, actually, I am feeling that feeling as well. I was always told by mentors never quit on a bad day. And so I kept having all of these great days, like everything that you would desire on paper with a business. And I would just still come home so heavy. Just no, this isn't it. This isn't the conversation that I desire to be having at the depth and at the fireside of where I need to be having it.
mm,
Um, as well, my business consultancy was called the Cheetah Company, and the focus was acceleration and fast pace results. And that just no longer really adjusted to this state of attunement, which
mm.
is you will miss a lot if you don't go a little deeper and slow down a little bit more.
Wow. Yeah, when I saw you make that speech that I was referring to in person, it was when you were still in the Cheetah Company. And I do I resonate so much with the work you're doing now in this slower pace and slowing down to be in the juiciness of life because
Yeah,
I think that so much and there I think that people can believe that you either have to be hustling and moving really fast and working really hard all the time, or you can't be successful as an entrepreneur.
yeah,
And my intention, my goal with my business is to show how living a softer, seasonal, intuitive, intentional life can give you everything you want and still feel really good. And you don't need
yeah,
to be either in your hustle era or your soft era, you know?
yeah,
And yeah, I guess I'm just curious your thoughts on that. And also, how has it felt for you to slow down? Because I think the embodiment of that shift from moving fast and focusing on that to slowing down can be really challenging. And I know it has been and continues to be for me.
yeah, yeah. Hmm. I'll answer that piece first. There was a lot that was occurring inside of my business. I had TCC for almost 7 years. Um, and I coined something called holistic harmony in life and business. And that was the first kind of approach towards this push and pull within my work life. I was open to push and pull with social life of like being with friends and such, like, okay, this isn't a great season for me to have a ton of going out dates, etc. But I had never done it with business. I was just always pushing some or several projects forward all at once. And I was like, maybe if we push and then pull back, that would feel better. So that was kind of the seasonal, cyclical experience that I began in my work life. And then I realized, oh, I want to do this across the board, and I'm not sure how to do this well. And so started playing with that and playing with clients to do the same. I would say slowing down, of course, has come with um, fear, Am I going to lose momentum? All of those things that we do see on explore pages on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
But recognizing, just looking back at this year alone, I've achieved more and felt every portion of the achievement than I ever have before. I've never built a business this quickly and also this sustainably and this deeply. So after I think I've had 3 or 4 businesses now, the proof is in the pudding that it feels good to slow down. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what have you noticed that it's hard for your clients to slow down as well, or has that what has been a theme around that?
Yeah. I think that's my favorite kind of gal, is just that person that's like pushing it forward to push it forward, maybe a bit hyper masculine, but they have such a softness in them. You can see it. I love like teasing that out of like, oh, this can be fun. You don't have to stay in this place. And yes, there's that initial like, oh my gosh, experience, but I have designed my programs to ensure that nervous system attunement is within the first, 14 days. They're able to say, like, okay, I'm slowing down in this way, and here's how good it feels. Like, we're looking for those pain and those pleasure points and really helping the body feel okay within it with breath work, with somatics, etc. And I really think that it helps them so much. I think the original mentality is I do kind of have to market that they won't slow down and then bring them into the idea of slowing down. Yeah.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, yeah. I think it can feel very unsafe in our body to slow down. Like our
Yeah.
bodies can have that fight, flight, freeze, trauma response, and that can deter people right away, even
Yeah.
unconsciously.
Yeah, definitely. Because yeah, it still feels like a response to slow down. Um, the first time I slowed down, I felt like a bunny, like hiding in a forest, waiting for something to capture me.
Mm.
So I think knowing the vivid imagery just within myself allows me to I ask a lot of questions of, are you feeling this way? Or are you feeling like you're being chased by a bear? Like, how is this landing in your body?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think that coming back to our bodies and how life actually feels is so important. And that actually comes back to the joy piece and the fun
Yeah.
piece. Because if we're
Mhm.
constantly moving and hustling and doing and trying to push things forward, we're so disconnected from how our bodies feel. And when we can slow down, then we can connect to our bodies, then we can actually feel how we're feeling, and then we can actually allow ourselves to feel joy and feel pleasure. And that is something that we've been taught is not okay and that we have been
Yeah.
kind of trained out of.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Our power and our pleasure as women, especially, it's a tool of control. I think that I feel like it becomes slow activism within our own selves if we're willing to pause long enough to feel how we feel. Love the way that you positioned it.
Yeah, 100%. It has truly connecting to my pleasure to joy, slowing down has felt like connecting to my power, has felt like a radical act of rebellion, honestly.
Yeah.
And let's talk about pleasure because I know that that's something you touched on before we got on the call, and that is actually a topic that I'm really wanting to talk about more on the podcast because I think it's a topic that people stray away from, have trouble with, and so I'd love to hear just how that shows up in your life, in your work, personally, professionally.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was working with a couple of private clients. They had just scaled beyond 1 million. They had a couple of businesses within their portfolio. It was just this like first big roster of clients where I was like, there's a data point here we have to not ignore. And it was just this quiet little, okay, so what are your wins this week? What's going on? And then we would discuss about personal. And the positioning of starting a call with wins is so they feel good, but immediately like complaints and issues start to come out right after. So it's an easy kind of bridge to open it up. And the women started sharing, like, well, I don't feel as connected to my partner. What does that mean? Oh, well, we don't go on date nights. What does that mean? So we just kept like going down this rabbit hole of we haven't had sex in 5 months. And I don't remember the last time I had an orgasm. And they're trying to create new offers and scale things on the back end. I'm like, you can keep trying to push creation, but you're not even creating in your own life. An orgasm is a portion of creation. And if you're constantly saying no to pleasure in your personal life, it doesn't feel good to then receive in different ways more clients, more money, more visibility, whatever, because you feel like you're hiding something of, I have this great marriage and this great whatever, but you don't because you're not actually connected. So we really started to tease out the idea that they're allowed to have sex, even if their body is like, oh, I don't know, it feels forced. Really played with the idea of how can we influence the body to not feel like it's forced and to not feel like it's just another chore or something that you're going to be doing, but you are disassociating and thinking about your to-do list.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, like I was saying with the joy not feeling safe, I think pleasure cannot feel safe.
Yeah.
And I love how you were saying around if you're not creating in that intimacy way, how do you expect to create in other areas of your life? And it all, we think that we can separate personal from professional. And even if
Yeah.
you're not an entrepreneur, you simply can't. Like everything is interconnected and everything is a, even if you're not in a quote unquote creative work,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
all creative. It's all
It's
it,
all
like
creative.
connection is it just all bleeds into each other. And
Hmm.
so I love how you have teased that out with your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially even from, I mean, I've had a couple of Virgo clients in the past, and they feel like, as a systems operations person, they don't have to be creative. And of course, like that's so creative. Some of the most creative people on the planet to think in that way with like technicalities and pieces like that. So, yeah, yeah,
Mm. And so how have you helped people tap into pleasure more? Like what have those practices been?
yeah. One of the first practices we moved through, just starting our cocktail hour of my main program, is to look around the room and find something that brings them joy, that brings them pleasure just to look at. And most of them seem to land on like bookshelves and bookcases and um, little like altar sections in general with candles and such. And I ask them like, where do you feel that in your body? Like, does your stomach flutter? Does your chest feel light? And so they then have a place where they can put a physical hand on that pleasure point. And then I'll ask them, let's think about like the hardest thing you're moving through this week, a problem that you're solving. Where does that show up in your body? And it's usually the same point of pain. The pleasure point is the pain point. So, yeah, we just find it.
Yeah, and you stay connected to your body, the embodiment piece, the slowing
Yeah.
down to really feel. I'm also curious, so I know you work with women,
Mhm.
but I'm curious how it how this has translated to their relationship with men, not to make things so binary, but if they've talked about, I guess we can just say relationships in general.
Yeah.
If your clients have, or even your friends have talked about how this has transformed their relationships and how they show up in relationship.
Yeah. I was just speaking with a client yesterday, and she's having a big weekend that usually pulls her into this kind of eldest daughter syndrome, taking care of everything and everyone. And she really is an eldest daughter. It's a big weekend with her family. Um, and her goals were to allow her husband to support her more. And she's kind of like kept him up with each thing that we're doing inside of the program. And he can just see her softening. And she's already a very warm, nurturing, connective person. But she's insular. She won't necessarily say, like, this is how I'm feeling. So she feels like touch has increased. She's more open to it, especially while we're tracking her cycle to see when she is and isn't open to touch. Instead of just believing this narrative, I'm not open to touch. I don't know what's up. That can take a whole cycle instead of here's a couple of days in your luteal time that you do not want to be touched. So sometimes it's as minute as touch, and other times it's as big as my family usually does this. Can you step in with me and for me and back me up in this way? Here are my boundaries and standards. And kind of having what would be a crisis communication plan in business, but for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how have you noticed this in your own life? Like, have you honed in on these practices in your own relationship? Did that come before or after or in tandem when you were working with it with clients?
I'm always before. I always recognize, like, okay, this is what I need to speak about with clients and just like check in on. It's usually 6 to 8 months before those clients really come in. Yeah. I was definitely not open to Chris's touch. That's my husband. We've been together for 11 years this year, and I noticed deep in the throes of scaling TCC, I would get off and just you're like, okay, I have to do dinner and I have to do this and I have to do that. So just like continuing that same kind of masculine, structured, let me get this done. And he would come up behind me so excited that I'm like off the computer and finished for the day. He's in tech, so he's on the computer a lot as well. And he would try to hug me from behind while I'm making dinner. And I would feel like I was going to implode. Just, oh my gosh, every cell in my body felt activated. I do not want this right now. And recognizing uh, that most women, especially women that are neurodivergent, need transitional times. So moving from work to doing something that's a little bit pleasure filled, even if it's stretching, to recognize like, okay, I can let go of all this that I've been holding all day long with different practices, and then feeling open to touch just by doing that transitional piece.
Mm.
Yeah.
I notice that in myself so much. I need
Yeah.
transitions, and I've really learned to ritualize them for myself, like lighting a candle as I move from one thing to the next, or a couple of deep
Yeah.
breaths from one moment to the next. And really, especially if I'm working from home, having this moment of like, okay, work is done for the day. I'm transitioning energies, and really having these rituals in place to delineate that and mark that for myself. And that
Yeah.
has been so important for me and so powerful for me. And
Yeah.
so, and it sounds like you are in a very ritualistic person as well, and
Yeah.
also have embraced seasonal living and intentional living. And so I love that because that's such a huge part of my life and my work. And so I'm curious if you've always been that way, and what are some rituals that you really lean on in your day-to-day life?
Hmm. I think I grew up in Florida, so we did not have seasons whatsoever. It felt like forever summer, like that's what we essentially call it. And I desired seasons when folks were like talking about winter. I would just stare at photos and videos of the darkness and wish for it. Um, so I think I would make my own darkness, but it didn't quite land until we moved to North Carolina. and I experienced it, like the true inhabiting of winter and other seasons as well. And I would say looking back, I can see where I was pulling on seasonal living, but I also kind of thought that it, not a hoax, but almost, it was packaged to me by someone. I had a chronic condition in high school throughout college, and it was kind of packaged as the thing that would help me then not feel this way, instead of this would be supportive to you for this reason. And so I just strayed away from it. Once I realized I was doing more um, push and pull within my work life and also working with folks to support my hormones, cyclical living really came into play. For rituals that I lean on daily, I would say that it definitely shifts and changes. Light is a big portion of it. That's the thing that never really changes. Around the evening time, like everything needs to go dimmer. Everything needs to be different. Like we're allergic to the big light is truly an energy. Um, and the transitional pieces of walks with my dog and journaling in between, but also anything with texture. So shifting clothing, shifting work shoes in the house versus slippers that then signal like, okay, we're off and we're finally finished with the day. Yeah, and a lot of horizontal resetting. That's really supportive for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the change of environment, change of energy, and
Yeah,
the thought behind that, not just going through the motions, but really being intentional about it all.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, like feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to the fact that you and your husband have been together for 11 years, how do
Yeah.
you feel like you have supported each other as you've grown and evolved and moved through different seasons?
Ugh, we kind of have to have a little bit of a face off of like, we think that we're having these communication pieces from this point of view, and we're bringing not necessarily the past, but more like past patterning. We both have ADHD, so we're both quick to pick up patterns and we kind of root each other in those patterns. So then we have to come to this face off of, oh no, I broke this pattern and this is my new identity. So actually, can you meet me here? So it's a lot of like, can you meet me here conversations. Yeah.
I love that. As someone who changes a lot and goes through different transformations, and I feel like, being the Scorpio rising manifesting generator that I am, all the things, there are often moments where I'm like, if I'm a different person now, like even when I'm
Yeah.
reconnecting with friends or who I haven't talked to in a long time, or even someone really close to me who I talk to every day, sometimes I have to be like, no, this isn't who I am anymore. And can
Yeah.
you move through that with me? Can you be okay with that? Can you meet me in this new version and not hold me to who I was before? And I
Yeah.
find that the relationships that stay strong consistently are the ones that celebrate that growth and are able to meet me in that conversation and that embodiment.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. Yeah. So we're not just standardized versions that are stagnant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And what got you into entrepreneurship in the first place?
I was poor. I was poor. I started working around 11, and so I was babysitting jobs here and there, etc. And then we lived in low income housing, government housing, and there was just a lot of conversations about money, not having enough, etc. So I was always looking for ways to just pick something up. It wasn't until um, I was in high school, like ninth grade, for photography. I was in an arts program, and someone was like, well, you've basically just been like freelancing in these different ways, and now you're freelancing with photography. So you're you're an entrepreneur. That's what it's called. And I was like, oh, cool. What's this new word? You know? So ninth grade was my first business. That way I
Wow.
wouldn't have to balance like a work schedule after school. That was difficult for me. I just wanted to come home and nap as a little watery being in the public school system.
And I
Yeah.
don't think what are your astrological signs?
Oh, yeah. I'm a Leo sun, Pisces moon, and a Cancer rising.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I really love that you found that so young because I think that
Yeah.
so many people can try to fit themselves into a certain structure of society for so long, even though it's not working for them. And, of course you went through your own journey and had to find different ways to fit your work to suit you, but
Yeah.
I think that so many people just fall into what they think they're supposed to do and don't take that moment to be like, oh, what will actually suit who I am? What actually
Yeah.
serves my personality, my needs, my wants, my habits, and how can I shape my life to fit me?
Hmm. Yeah. And I really did try the other piece with corporate and working in higher education, management in different ways. And each time it was just like, I have an Aries midheaven. I'm not supposed to be under someone else. And I know that that can come off as like egotistical, but when you know that you're meant to create a path, you got to go down it.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because
Yeah.
I have a Leo midheaven. And
Ooh.
I spent a lot of my life not okay with that. Even before I knew a lot about my astrological chart, there was always this part of me that wanted to be seen. When I was younger, I loved acting and dancing and singing and doing plays and all these things. I used to want to be on Broadway. Now I would never ever, but that thread still has continued. Like I've had to accept that I want to be seen and known and I want certain things for my career.
Mhm. Yeah.
But for a long time, I wasn't okay with that. It felt
Yeah.
too egotistical, too selfish, too self-centered, too big, too much, too dramatic, all these things. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of women feel that way. And I feel like the Aries, Leo, like there's a connection there with that fire and how not just in that way, but I think all of us have had to come to terms with something that we want and allowing ourselves to want what we want, I think is what I'm trying to say. And allowing ourselves to be okay with claiming it and owning it and going out to get it, whether that's
Yeah.
whatever that is. It could be something huge or small, something professional or personal. Like, I think we all have to be, and again, this comes back to allowing ourselves to feel joy. We have to allow ourselves to want and pursue what we want.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, I have so many like tangential thoughts, but my first
Go for it.
question with a Leo sun and you with a Leo midheaven, do you feel that you actually want to be seen, or do you just feel that you're already seen?
Mm,
Which one is it?
that's such an interesting question. Um, I think it's that I want to be, mm, I think it's that maybe it's a little bit of both.
Hmm.
But I think for me, especially because it's my midheaven, um, it's specifically about career. Like I want to be known. Like I want to be known for my work.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm curious that question for you.
Yeah. With Leo suns, I feel like we regularly get a little boxed in. Aries is kind of the spark, the spark of it all that creates like the fire line. They're the first spark. Leo is regularly seen as egotistical, loud, dramatic, all of these things. I don't care to be seen so much as I think it is desiring to be known. But there's something else that's there of just expression. Just I'm expressing, and if you are seeing me, then I guess I'm on a stage, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking to be on the stage. The stage is just around me and here for me. And I really do feel like it's just a sense of expression that desires to come out.
Yes.
And yeah, it's really interesting. And having Aries in my midheaven, I regularly found myself in situations at work that would be reflected to me of I'm asking too many questions and I'm trying to change too much too fast. So breaking down systems in a system that was already failing was not good. That was how it was seen. I think I would do great in more startups and maybe nonprofit orgs and things like that. But even so, yeah, that's just it's an interesting little tease. What about your Mercury? I'm curious of where that lands. Do you know?
Virgo.
Virgo. Oh my goodness. Oh,
All
that's
the
so
Virgos.
interesting.
What's
Yeah.
what's your Mercury?
Gemini.
Okay, we both okay. Virgo and Gemini
Yeah.
are both ruled by Mercury, so
Yeah.
we have that connection. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So it all comes into play of just expression and um, being mercurial. You can take things too far and too long and tangential, and the folks can get lost.
Hmm.
And I think that's been an interesting portion of my work online is I used to really dumb down my language in order to meet the confinements of the zeitgeist and the trends at the time. And it feels so good to be in this era of depth.
Yeah, I'm the same. I simply, when it comes to social media, I can't do the trends. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I'll do, no, no, let me reframe. I will do whatever genuinely feels exciting and intuitive and authentic to me. But
Yeah.
I can't do things just because someone says I should.
No.
And it's so easy to get lost in that on social media, of course. But I think that the more that I really focus on staying connected to my vision and who I am and kind of putting blinders on in that way, it's been so helpful because otherwise you really can get lost in the noise, no
Yeah.
matter how much you don't want to. And so, yeah, when it comes to social media, I'm so devoted to just focusing on what feels good for me and
Yeah.
trying to just completely forget about the rest.
Yeah. And Leos are so loyal, so that makes sense for your career. You're so loyal to your expression. Yeah.
Oh my God, so loyal to my expression. That feels so true. Good way to put it. I feel like we could talk about our charts forever. For me,
Yeah.
it's such a powerful way for me to understand myself and know myself. And I'm
Yeah.
curious for you, have you always known about your astrology? Have you always been into knowing those kinds of things?
Other than like the coffee news, zodiac quick things, no. I've always been into personality tests. I was an only child with two very stretched parents, just like trying to make ends meet. So it was constantly like, I don't have a mirror to attune back and forth and see what my personality is. Um, so I think personality tests really have always done it for me.
What do you think is something you are currently learning about yourself right now?
Mm, I am learning. Okay. So I was late last year. I was working with a therapist and he shared that it seemed like I had some OCD. I was like, that's wild, but it sits in a moral bucket. So it's not touching anything or rearranging necessarily. It can come out that way and stress. But morally, I will loop and loop and loop. And I think that really comes back to the connection of what we were talking about at the beginning of allowing things to not have to be a hallway that I have to run down for the sense of disillusionment or to see if it's dark. I can just trust, like, okay, we've gone through the loop a couple of times and I think we've landed.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, hello, friend.
Yeah. She is coming to say hi. And that's so, I mean, we could go so deep. We would need hours to do this, but I don't think I've actually ever talked about this on the podcast, but I have some OCD tendencies as well in a similar
Yeah.
realm, and my brain can just like loop and loop and loop. And so it's really interesting that you bring that up, and I think it's learning about that and going down that road of conversation with my therapist has been really helpful and enlightening for me to learn about myself and what loops not to follow and when to stop them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I've felt bad in the past of stopping my thoughts.
Mm.
Like there's there's a necessity to listen to yourself enough, but also, do some observing work of, okay, we're the adult here, and these are the different parts that are coming into a play and all of that. But with OCD, as you know, the loops do not stop unless you stop them. So thought stopping has been a really interesting activity to play within for the last year. And I'm sure I have in the past, but it's been really, really intentional the last year.
Yeah. And that's another way, like I've had to be so intentional about it because otherwise you just get caught up in those autopilot loops. And it's interesting. Like I feel like for me, it also connects to allowing myself to change and having these intentional rituals of transition that get me out of autopilot because I have to intentionally allow my thoughts to change and
Yeah,
allow myself to be like, okay, that's an old thought loop that I don't need to loop in anymore, that I can set
yeah,
down and I don't need to follow. And I'm going to have this little transition ritual and set the thought
mhm,
loop down and send it on its way, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And so those rituals allow me also to change up my thoughts, and that's been really helpful.
yeah. And truly, it'll come back if it needs to come back.
Mhm.
It'll
Yes,
loop around the way.
yes, yes, exactly. You can trust that.
You can trust it. The spiral will return.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Okay, I could talk to you forever,
I
but
know.
the last question. Living intuitively wild means connecting to your true self and living dedicated to who you are at your core, no matter what. How do you feel like you live intuitively wild?
Harmoniously, looking for my own tune and really listening for it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's so beautiful.
thank you.
I guess when you say listening for your own tune, how do you do that?
In the same way that if you're listening to a symphony and you're dressed up and you're having a beautiful evening, or if you're going to high school band practice for the very first time, sounds like a cacophony over there. And then with the symphony, it really sounds like a true refined sound that feels good in your body and it truly feels frequenced to something that sounds good that we can recognize and doesn't sound like horror music.
Mhm, mhm.
That's what I'm looking for is, does this portion of my life feel like a horror movie with the sound effects and the sounds in the background? Does it feel like a drama? Does it feel like a rom-com? So I'm looking for those sounds.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so interesting to me. I really love thinking about it. And I think it's so interesting how different people attune to life in different ways. Like for me, I can be
Mhm.
very scent based? Like, does this smell good?
Oh,
So you bring up the sound is really interesting to me. I love that.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, last thing. I think that's so cool because folks that have shared that before can almost, and I want to ask you, especially as the Scorpio rising,
Mm-hmm.
they've shared that sometimes when things are not going well in their lives in certain ways, it almost smells like decaying flowers. Does
Mm.
that resonate with you at all? Do you ever smell like decay?
I don't think so. I have not
Okay.
noticed that. I have not noticed that, but I will. For me, it can often be like I can sniff out metaphorically more so, sometimes literally as well, but I can like I can it comes back to this sense of discernment. Like I can really sniff out if something is off or if someone is off. Like I can be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this this is not going to end well," or like this person is not gonna, I don't need to, I shouldn't work with them, or I
Yeah.
should work with them, or like
Hmm.
this situation is done, you know? I can kind of
Yeah.
like sniff it out in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Especially, yeah, energetically, completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Please share with everyone anything you have going on that you want to share and where they can find you.
We have seasonal programming, so come connect if it resonates with you. You can find me at ashleighchenry.com and everything is listed there.
Amazing. Yay, Ashley.
Yay.
I really love this conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.